Hello, my dear friends and my dear listeners. Let's start the next part of the story. Till now, we have seen that the elder thief and the younger thief, both of them, had lived a very long life, a very happy life. And afterwards, the story in the second part was moved towards their next generation, that is, their younger sons. The son of the first thief, the elder thief, he proved himself as the one of the ducks of the roguery class. But it was not satisfactory for the elder thief, so that to prove the worthiness as a thief, the younger thief or the son of the elder thief, he has to succeed it into a task which was being assigned by his father, and the task was to steal the necklace from the queen's neck. And in this task, our younger thief, he has taken with him a black black a black clothes outfit, as well as few nails and hammer and a sword. Now, after raking the whole campus of the palace, outside and through, inside through, by talking to some neighbors, as well as the maids and some sorts of acquainted persons, and he came to know that he has to cross over four doors. And till now, we have seen that he was successful in crossing the first door. So let's dig into the story so that we can understand what happened, so we can so that we can know, we can get the story, we can see what happened next, how he has crossed, whether he could succeed it or not. So let's start the story. In a similar manner, he passed the second door, the third door, and the fourth door. And now the queen's bedchamber stared him in the face. It was in the third loft. There was a bright light in it, and a low voice was heard as that of a woman saying something in a humdrum manner. The young thief thought that the voice must be the voice of a maidservant reciting a story, as he had learned was the custom in the palace every night for composing the king and queen to sleep. But how to get up into the third loft? The inner doors were all closed, and there were guards everywhere. But the young thief had with him nails and a hammer. Why not drive the nails into the wall and climb up by them? True, but the driving of nails into the wall would make a great noise which would rouse the guards and possibly the king and queen. At any rate, the maidservant reciting stories would give the alarm. Our erratic genius had considered that matter well before engaging in the work. There is a water clock in the palace which shows the hours, and at the end of every hour, a very large Chinese gong is struck, the sound of which is so loud that it is not only heard all over the palace but over most part of the city. And the peculiarity of the gong, as of every Chinese gong, was that nearly 1 minute must elapse after the first stroke before the second stroke could be made, to allow the gong to give out the whole of its sound. The thief fixed upon the minutes when the gong was struck at the end of every hour for driving nails into the wall. At 10 o'clock, when the gong was struck 10 times, the thief found it easy to drive 10 nails into the wall. When the gong stopped, the thief also stopped and either sat or stood quiet on the ninth nail, catching hold of the ninth, which was above the other, catching hold of the 10th, which was above the other. At 11 o'clock, he drove into the wall in a similar manner, 11 nails, and got a little higher than the second story. And by 12 o'clock, he was in the loft where the royal bedchamber was. Peeping in, he saw a drowsy maidservant drowsily reciting a story, and the king and queen apparently asleep. He went stealthily behind the storytelling maidservant and took his seat. The queen was lying down on a richly furnished bedstead of gold beside the king. The massive chain of gold round the neck of the queen was gleaming in candlelight. The thief quietly listened to the story of the drowsy maidservant. She was becoming more and more sleepy. She stopped for a second, nodded her head, and again resumed the story. It was plain she was under the influence of sleep. In a moment, the thief cut off the head of the maidservant with his sword, and himself went on reciting for some minutes the story which the woman was telling. The king and queen were unconscious of any change as to the person of the storyteller, for they were both in deep sleep. He stripped the murdered woman of her clothes, put them on himself, tied up his own clothes in a bundle, and, walking softly, gently, took off the chain from the neck of the queen. He then went through the rooms downstairs, ordered the inner guard to open the door, as she was obliged to go out of the palace for purposes of necessity. The guards, seeing that it was the queen's maidservant, readily allowed her to go out. In the same manner and with the same pretext, he got through the other doors and at last out into the street. That very night, or rather morning, the young thief put into his father's hand the gold chain of the queen. The elder thief could scarcely believe his own eyes. It was so like a dream. His joy knew no bounds. Addressing his son, he said, "Well done, my son. You are not only as clever as your father, but you have beaten me hollow. The gods give you long life, my son." Next morning, when the king and queen got up from bed, they were shocked to see the maidservant lying in a pool of blood. The queen also found that her gold chain was not round her neck. They could not make out how all this could have taken place. How could any thief manage to elude the vigilance of so many guards? How could he get into the queen's bedchamber, and how could he again escape? The king found from the reports of the guards that a person calling herself the royal maidservant had gone out of the palace some hours before dawn. All sorts of inquiries were made, but in vain. Proclamation was made in the city. A large reward was offered to anyone who would give information tending to the apprehension of the thief and murderer. But no one responded to the call. At last the king ordered a camel to be brought to him. On the back of the animal was placed two large bags filled with gold mohurs. The man taking charge of the bags upon the camel was ordered to go through every part of the city, making the following challenge. As the thief was daring enough to steal away a gold chain from the neck of the queen, let him further show his daring by stealing the gold mohurs from the back of this camel. 2 days and nights the camel paraded through the city, but nothing happened. On the third night, as the camel driver was going his rounds, he was accosted by a sannyasi who sat on a tiger's skin before a fire, and near whom was a monstrous pair of tongs. This sannyasi was no other than the young thief in disguise. The sannyasi said to the camel driver, "Brother, why are you going through the city in this manner? Who is there so daring as to steal from the back of the king's camel? Come down, friend, and smoke with me." The camel driver alighted, tied the camel to a tree on the spot, and began smoking. The mendicant supplied him not only with tobacco but with ganja and other intoxicating drugs, so that in a short time the camel driver became quite intoxicated and fell asleep. The young thief laid away the camel with the treasure on its back in the dead of night through narrow lanes and bypaths to his own house. That very night the camel was killed, and its carcass buried in deep pits in the earth, and the thing was so. Okay, this is the depiction of the scenery where the man with least amount of clothes is depicting the young thief in the disguise of a sannyasi, and we can see a man, uh, he is sitting in an intoxicating manner, and the sannyasi is uh, holding the camel, and the camel has two bags full of mohurs. So let's go back, let's resume the story. And the thing was so managed that no one could discover any trace of it. The next morning, when the king heard that the camel driver was lying drunk in the street, and that the camel had been made away with together with the treasure, he was almost beside himself with anger. Proclamation was made in the city to the effect that whoever caught the thief would get the reward of 1 lakh of rupees. The son of the younger thief, who, by the way, was in the same school of roguery with the son of the elder thief, though he did not distinguish himself so much, now came to the front and said that he would apprehend the thief. He, of course, suspected that the son of the elder thief must have done it, for who so daring and clever as he? In the evening of the following day, the son of the younger thief disguised himself as a woman, and coming to that part of the town where the young thief lived, began to weep very much, and went from door to door, saying, "Oh, sirs, can any of you give me a bit of camel's flesh? For my son is dying, and the doctors say nothing but eating camel's meat can save his life. Oh, for pity's sake, do give me a bit of camel's flesh." At last he went to the house of the young thief and begged of the wife, for the young thief himself was out, to tell him where he could get hold of camel's flesh, as his son would assuredly perish if it could not be got. Saying this, he rent the air with his cries and fell down at the feet of the young thief's wife. Woman, as she was, though the wife of a thief, she felt pity for the supposed woman, and said, "Wait, and I will try and get some camel's flesh for your son." So saying, she so saying, she secretly went to the spot where the dead camel had been buried, brought a small quantity of flesh, and gave it to the party. The son of the younger thief was now entranced with joy. He went and told the king that he had succeeded in tracing the thief, and would be ready to deliver him up at night if the king would send some constables with him. At night, the elder thief and his son were captured, the body of the camel dug out, and all the treasures in the house seized. The following morning, the king sat in judgment. The son of the elder thief confessed that he had stolen the queen's gold chain and killed the maidservant and had taken away the camel. But he added that the person who had detected him and his father, the younger thief, were also thieves and murderers, of which fact he gave undoubted proofs. As the king had promised to give a lakh of rupees to the detective, that sum was placed before the son of the younger thief. But soon after, he ordered 4 pits to be dug in the earth in which were buried alive with all sorts of thorns and thistles the elder thief and the younger thief and their two sons. So, here is the end of the story. Here is the adventure of the end. Adventure for us. It was a kind of adventure for us. So I must say, here my story endeth. The Natia throne withered, and in Bengali I must say, আমার কথাটি ফুরলো নোটে গাছটি মুড়লো. So, from this story, from this whole 4 parts of the story, we came to know that, not 5 parts of the story, we came to know that whatever is happening, if you are in a right path, you are going to succeed. But if you are in a wrong path, how clever, how genius you are, you have to face the consequences. And I must say, karma is always there. If we are sowing paddy paddy seeds, then we will reap paddy. Otherwise, if we are sowing the throne, then we will reap off the thrones. So that is the thing. But we have to face our karma, and we have to face its consequences. It may be good, it may be bad, but all do it all together. I must say thank you for your overwhelming support, and thank you for your kindness and humbleness, and thank you for your support again and again. I am very much blessed for by your support. So be happy, be safe, and keep listening to my channel Shomoita Rupkathara. So tada.